Be'ez Hashem, Parshas Kedoshim, Tavshim Pei Daled. Chavis Avavos and Shahar Bitachon, in the 4th chapter, Perek Daled, mentions different areas in a person's life where they're supposed to, on the one hand, trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom that Hashem is going to make it work, Hashem is going to take care of a person's issues, and on the other hand, at the same time, a person is supposed to be doing hishtadlus, doing what's needed, doing what's right, doing what's normal. And the avodah of the person is not to connect the two, knowing that the reason why I'm trying is because Hashem has a avodah of a person, that they should on their own do the physical steps that are needed. But Hashem is the one that's deciding, Hashem is the one that's creating the solutions to problems, and it's not connected. That's the big yesod. Of course, what's needed is that a person should understand, so what's the point? In the past we discussed it, like if Hashem is doing anyways from the beginning till the end, so why can't I just trust? I'll trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom and I'm not going to do anything. But that's really what the Chavis Avavos is trying to stress very strong in Perek Daled. You are supposed to do the full ishtadlus, and at the same time remember 100% there's nothing to do with the ishtadlus. Now we're not going to go back into the connection and how they work together and why a person is supposed to do ishtadlus. A little bit will explain it, but let's first dive in to the area of health. The Chavis Avavos goes on, this parnasa, and then v'chein noima be'inyon habrius v'achoili. That in this specific area, a person is supposed to try to understand and learn it. How does that work? When a person is ill and they are wondering what does Hashem want from them to do, to help themselves, family members, mothers for their children, a spouse. And when there is a choyle b'toich bayis shalodom, when there's a person in the family, a family member, close family member that's struggling with illness, it usually takes over almost everything. It depends how severe, depends what the situation is, but it's heavy. There's a lot of ishtadlus that's done because there's so much emotion involved, because they're trying to help this physical suffering. Many times it gets even worse than that. There's the pachad, scare that the person should make it, and the person's trying everything. This doctor, that doctor, this side of the world, the other side of the world. So there's a shtadlus, and heavy shtadlus done. And the Chavis Avavos says, of course, you're supposed to be doing the full shtadlus. V'rapa yirape, Chazal say, he calls it a tzivui. Not only you have a reshus to do it, but you are obligated. It's your responsibility to try to see whatever's possible. In today's days, it's the Askonim world. It means to try to talk to people that know a little bit more what's going on, which mahalach to take. And at the same time, you're supposed to be trusting and knowing that Hashem could help with a siba or without a siba. Meaning with medicine, without medicine, and the Rebbeinu Shalom just decides, and the person becomes healthy. It could even be that Hashem could bring the refuah with a dovar hamazik. The Chazal teach us constantly. If it's the water in Parshas B'Shalach that was bitter, and Hashem said, put in a bitter piece of a piece of wood that's I don't know if the word is bitter. A tree that's hardufni, that means it could only make things worse. And then the water became sweet. And Elisha, many stories in Nach where it didn't make any sense why this should help. If anything, it should do the opposite. But Yishlach, there's a pasuk, we say it in the capital of Hoidu. We say Erev Shabbos, Yishlach devoroi v'yirpoim. Hashem sends his tzivu, his words, his tzivu from Hashem, and then the person gets healed. There's nothing to do. It's the same concept, the same klal that a person should constantly remember that it's not about that the Ishtadlis is doing it, and anyways I'm supposed to be doing the Ishtadlis. Okay. So now, if a person doesn't understand the reason why they're doing the Ishtadlis, if anyways it's not working, then it's not possible to do the Ishtadlis right. And it's a real tough one. Especially when it comes to illness. People, we get so emotionally involved. There's the hope, and then there's many times devastating news, and back and forth, and ups and downs. A person is on a roller coaster. There's trauma involved, when a person is going through these ups and downs. And so many times in the middle, people just let me just give up. I don't think it makes sense anymore. Some people are fighters, but even if you fight all the way, the Chavos says you're also wrong. You're supposed to be doing it, but you're not supposed to emotionally feel like you're fighting. In today's language, they call it fighting the battle. Strong person fighting the battle. It's true, with simcha and with avoida, but not with feeling, all these feelings of, it could be sometimes be anger, and so many different not healthy emotions that's involved. So, of course, we go back to the basics, which we have to remind ourselves, what's the basics? The basics is that the avoida of a person in this world is to connect or and choshech, light and darkness, which means to realize how Hashem is in every detail in the person's life, to realize that even the gashmis, the material, whatever's around the person, all the gashmis, the situations, is everything just Hashem. So that's why we tell the person to act, to do, understand that it's Hashem. And that's when a person's their hands are doing and their mind is up there, then they're connecting Olam Haza and Olam Haba. So that's one way of explaining why Hashem wants a person to be oisik and ishtadlis with the right mindset. Also, which is the same concept, it's just from a different angle. It's testing the person, like the Chavos always explained, testing the person if they're going to be doing the ishtadlis the right amount, if they're going to be doing it with the right mindset. The etzem nisoyin, that a person should be doing it and remembering while they're doing it that that's why they're doing it, just to do the shlichus from Hashem, and they can't do anything on their own anyways. And if it helps, it's Hashem that did it. If it didn't help, it's not the teva that was not working. It wasn't the doctor. It wasn't that. It was Hashem. That's the challenge. When things don't work out, to remember that it's not what it looked like. It's not a physical reason why it didn't work out. And when things do work out, remember it's not koich avotzim yadi. So that's why, that's what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants of a person, to handle the situation with the right mindset.
People have so much guilt. I should have gone to that hospital. I should have not taken that doctor. I should have gone to another country.
So it's very important that you bring it up, because when the Chavos always gives so many examples, sometimes people tend to think like, "What? I got it." You know what I mean? The concept, it was brought down. So if I understand it in Parnasa, I can understand it when it comes to health. But it's not true, because every challenge, every nisoyin that a person has in their life has different nuances that the other nisoyin didn't have. And it touches a person in the deepest parts of their nefesh. So it's so important. That's why people go through different challenges in life, because that's what's mashlim the person. It perfects the person. It forces a person to have true bitachon, because the other nisayin has something, a chiddush. So as you mentioned, when it comes to health, especially if things don't work out the way the person wanted to, so there's this topic of guilt. which it just haunts the person, and sometimes for years. And what's fascinating is that the more the person was giving themselves away towards the choile, day and night, for years, emotionally connected, and went to the doctor, and went to the hospital, and was there for weeks. The more the person gets emotionally connected, the more the guilt that I should have been there. Why did I go home on Shabbos? It's so painful. It's constantly this musik. And what were they thinking? I could sue them. I have it recorded. The doctors did something. They don't know that they're not supposed to do this. It doesn't make any sense. And so on. So this is something that by Parnosa, that guilt is not there. It's something that by health, and a person is supposed to remind themselves that that's the challenge where the person is. They do the utmost, and in a split second, Shlomazelkeit. That's what's so scary. All of a sudden, it's over. It's only one case. Most people make it. And the person is like, it doesn't make any sense. Back and forth, and they're living in denial. It's like so many stages of comprehending what happened. And it's once again the same Yesod, but it's supposed to overcome a stronger emotion. The Yesod is the same. Hashem does everything, but it's supposed to overcome the guilt that, listen, we can't do anything. And even when you did, and you called the doctor, and you made sure, and you sent someone to be there, you also couldn't do anything. There was the amount of years, and everything was basher at 1,000%. And when it does work out, it's not you. When it doesn't, it's not you. The interesting Yesod, the Rebbe Melech came in a dream to one of the Belzer Rebbes, the Mittler Belzer Rebbe, Reb Shia Belzer. Now, they weren't in the same generation. So Reb Shia Belzer told him, to the Rebbe Melech, he said, you said before you were nifta that you weren't successful in bringing Mashiach in your times, but in the era of your Talmidim, Mashiach is going to come. Reb Shia Belzer said, I'm ready after that. Mashiach still didn't come. So Rebbe Melech told him, I'm going to tell you a word. With that, you're going to be my Talmud. So there's going to still be a Talmud around in this world. So Mashiach could still come in the time of my Talmidim. He said, what's the word? He said, when Yidden were by Kriyas Yamsov, so they started crying to Rebbeinu Shlem, Moshe Rabbeinu, when the pasuk says, Matitza Kelai, why are you screaming? Just tell them to go into the Yamsov. Now the Medrash and our Chaim and all asked the question, what then should a Yid do when they're in such a mitzukah, when they're in such a crisis time? You daven to Rebbeinu Shlem, we're screaming to Rebbeinu Shlem, that's all we're doing. Why are you telling me why you're screaming? Matitza Kelai. And he added, and also, why did Hashem tell them to go in if the sea wasn't split yet? The Rebbe Melech said, a moshel. There was once a daughter, a Bas Melech, very talented, and many people were jealous of her. And there were women that were very, very jealous. And she went into labor. She was supposed to have a baby. And it wasn't going. And she was in danger, the baby was in danger. And they called the biggest doctors. Nothing worked. And the Melech was really uptight, like, what's going to be here? And then this person out of nowhere comes and he says, I know what to do. So they all looked at him and they said, what do you mean you know what to do? The biggest doctors don't have any solution. He said, you just follow what I say. Everybody should leave the room. I want to be there, me and you, the king, only us two. They went into the room, and then he says, the Melech, okay, 5 minutes past, okay, now you leave and go and tell everybody that the child was born, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. The Melech says, but I wasn't born. He says, you follow what I say. Okay? The Melech leaves and goes around and he says, Baruch Hashem, I was in the room with, I'm just coming. There was nobody was able to know that it's not true because there were only those two in the room. 5 minutes later, the person comes out and he says, Baruch Hashem, it's fine, Mazel Tov. They come in, they had the baby, everything. So the Melech, the king asked that person, what do you do? And what you sent me out? I should say, Mazel Tov. He says, I figured that the reason why she's having such a hard time has nothing to do medically. It's just because I knew that there are people that are jealous and they're doing kishif. They're playing around, they're doing things that this woman shouldn't be able to give birth. So what I did was I made sure nobody should know what's really going on. I sent everybody out. And then I sent you to go say Mazel Tov. So those people that they're doing whatever they're doing in the kishif should hear that it's a lost case anyways. Because the child was born. Already afterwards she gave birth. And that's going to make them stop. They're going to stop doing the kishif. And that's what happened. 5 minutes later the baby was born. So the Melech told him in his dream, he told him, when Yidden was standing at the Yam Suf and you're screaming, the Eibishter was telling Moshe, it's not the Yam, okay? It's not that. There's Mekatrigim. There are Koiches Atuma which are saying that they're not worthy, Halolu v'Halolu, they're also Oivdei Avodah Zarah, so they're not supposed to have a Yeshua. So if you're screaming, it's because your concept of the situation is that this is the problem. That's your conception. That's not the problem. So you go in, and the Mekatrigim are going to say, okay, that's it. The sea was split. So they're going to stop telling Hashem that they're not worth of having a nest. And that's what happened. That's why he told him, Dabab na Yisrael v'Yisrael. Shila Belzer said over the word, and he held himself a Talmud because of this word on Rebbe Melech. One very a point to take out of this story, of this Yesod, is what's happening in the results. That's, if nothing is working, it's not happening, you're stuck. It's not because of what you think that's what it's holding you back. It's not true. That's what it looks like in Haza. Siba and Mesoyev. It looks like that's because the doctor didn't come in, that's why it happened. Because nobody was around. Hashem made it, nobody should be around because that's what was supposed to happen. That's our fight with the Bria. That means it looks like the Gashmis, the world always tells the story of Siba and Mesoyev. It means it happened because, and it's really the same two things, but it's the opposite. Because it had to happen, that's why Hashem made sure the doctor should sleep, shouldn't gither, shouldn't chap, shouldn't. It's an avoid. It's not easy, but it has to overcome the guilt. It has to be 100%. And then again, Hashem put it into your mind that you shouldn't be there. Not only the doctor. The blame game is not always on the doctor. It's always also the person themselves. I should have. And it's always, people have to know, it's always the guilt factor is always there. It's not like, yeah, but by me, something happened. Also by him. There isn't a case that there's no massive guilt. And the only true answer to overcome the guilt is changing. Knowing that that's what Hashem made it happen, because it had to happen. So, that's number one. Now, it's avoid. A person should be able to understand that they're just robots doing what they're supposed to, and they can't force results to happen. Now, in the Sefer Pas Lechem on Chavis Avovos, which many Chavis Avovos come with the Sefer Pas Lechem, it's on the same Omid, he says something interesting. The Gemara says in Masechtas Brochas, and when it comes to refuah, to medicine, and it's Shulchan Aruch, it says in Shulchan Aruch, you should say Yirotzai Mefonecha, that this medicine should work and do what it could do, what it should do. It says by Hakozas Dam, bloodletting, that a person should say Yirotzai. It should be successful. It should work out. The body should respond properly. So he says, why when a person eats, we don't say Yirotzai that I should be soiva, satisfaction.
Satisfied.
We don't say that. It's like a shtickle automatic. If a person is hungry and they eat, they're not hungry. If a person is thirsty and they drink, it just does the job. So he says that the Eibishter created two kinds of situations. If it's eating and drinking, Hashem wanted that it should work. He says in the Rambam Milchas Deis explains it, that the Eibishter wanted that when a person eats, they're not hungry anymore. I'm not saying the feeling of hungry, it's more like the body gets the vitamins. And if a person drinks, then it takes care of the hydration. Refuah is something interesting. It's always percentage-wise. Every type of refuah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You took Tylenol? Yeah, I already took Tylenol. You know that? Okay, so try Advil. This is, I'm talking about Tylenol. But in any type of refuah, it's never for sure. It's always, we're going to try this. The body didn't respond, okay, so we'll try that. So that's why there's a hirotzen. That's what is a tefillah. Because you know that you're doing something, and you don't know if it's going to work, and we'll see. Now this is orchestrated from above. This is designed exactly that oichel and mashka should be this way, and refuah should always be, we don't know. Now when a person doesn't know that, it feels like that this world is just chavala, it's not perfect. It's just they didn't figure it out yet. Okay, we're sure already, and then it didn't work. What's the pshat? It didn't work. Hashem wanted it to work that way, which means the bitachon on the Rebbeinu Shalom is more natural, because we know, look at Chila, that we could try this, we'll see if it works. This works for this person, this works for something else, for somebody else. Now, that, if a person understands that by refuah always it's going to be like that, so it helps the person be in the right mindset for refuah. Like we mentioned earlier, that every area in a person's life, every type of nisayon has different machshavas that a person is supposed to add. When it comes to refuah, a person knows, okay, I have to daven, and I have to know that Hashem wanted that the refuahs should be a shtick like a match, like a zivug, a shtick like parnosa. This is good for him, is not good for him.
It's always changing. They're talking about how antibiotics that used to work like this aren't working so good anymore because the
Body's immune.
the bacteria became built up defenses against it, or they changed, and it's always changing.
It's always changing. With the chokhmah of refuah, it's always changing, that the medicines that used to work don't work. Machlas, they keep on. Viruses go up and down. It's always a area that a person is more vulnerable. It's not something that's simple. You just do this and it's done. It has a maila and it has a chisar, which means it helps bitachon and it ruins bitachon. It helps bitachon because a person chaps how vulnerable they are. It's not a massive science. It does. Who knows? I don't know. We're going on a journey. It could hurt your bitachon because it could bring the frustration level up much quicker and stronger, and just, I tried this, I tried that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. That sentence that is like, I think it could win the award for the sentence that's said most often, that's kfira. Doesn't make any sense. A person gets frustrated much quicker because they had expectation, and they didn't stop have expectation. They're suffering. They're in a mess now. It's not like they have expectations to win the lottery. They have expectations to live. They have expectations to halavai, to go back to normal life. Many times they paid thousands of dollars for the try. Sure, different heavy side effects. And after the side effects didn't work, the roller coaster is nishtam. And we have to know that. The Mepharshim explain, we're entering Bitachon and Brios and Chayli. It has different areas where a person is supposed to understand. So how does it work? Now, to get a little bit of better grip on Bitachon, on Brios and Chayli, let's for a minute skip to health, but not in the area of physical health, just emotional or neurological, if it's for ADHD and so on, whatever, all, and from there we could go on and on. It means if it's bipolar, everything, OCD, the ganze, everything. Schizophrenic, we don't have to get into everything at once. Let's talk about a parent that's trying to help the child, and it's like the manal called. They went for evaluation. They paid money they didn't have. The guy, he's going to try to find you someone that's good. 6 weeks later, he forgot. They went to someone, they paid again, didn't help, it got worse. So here we are, the frustration, that I've been there, done that. I don't believe in all these things, Kay. I tried. There are a bunch of, I don't know what, they just take your money and they don't really help. It could be, we went far, it could be plain psychologist. We ran right away to a psychiatrist. I mean, if you go, and I'm not seeing anything. I'm spending money that I don't have. I have choivis, tens of thousands of dollars, and nothing helped. Choivis Avovus is saying, the Paslacha, it was officially like that. Brios is a guessing game. It's not a nice word to use, the word guessing game, because it's a little bit misleading. But I'm using that term that in the beginning, where we are, in the beginning, we're trying, try this, try that. Ki'ilu, it's fun. Every time you try something, it's so much, there's emotion and it's not easy. The child doesn't want to come, doesn't want to come, and it's taking the risk. And then it falls through. Especially if it's numerous times. The frustration is ad l'shamayim, and then the person just says, listen, it is what it is. And when a person says it is what it is, they don't feel it like they're frustrated. It's more like, I'm being nichnat Rebbeinu Shalom. I mean, what else could I do? And that always takes us on this ride and says, if you would chap Bitachon and Ishtadlis till the end, you would be able to chap bas lishtadl bas modas abrius besibois. Try again, and then try again, and try again, and then try again. It doesn't make any sense. A person is done, emotionally finished. I'm not interested anymore. And the Chayz always says, but Aron Chap, didn't we say by Parnasa? You don't remember? We said a person is supposed to do Ishtadlis, and has nothing to do with the Ishtadlis. So by Brios, what makes it so complicated, and it really, the emotions of a person feels, I don't know what word to use, but I'm not using enough terminology for it, but washed out. I mean, the pshat is, like we mentioned, these two areas. One, there's so much emotion and guilt involved. There's also embarrassment. There's more emotion, much more than parnasa. I went a little bit to emotional health because that's where a person meets up with it maybe quicker in life. Children, back and forth. But it's the same. It's the same area. There's brios and choili, health. What does it make a difference? It's physical health and emotional health. There's much more emotion involved, and with Tzad the rate of being successful on the first try is much, much lower. So we have a Meforish, he says it outright. He says the Rambam Melchus Deis explains that the Rebbeinu Shalom made a big difference between refuah and food. Okay, so if a person has some context, it could help a person understand why they're so frustrated, why it's so hard. It's not easy to follow through in this in the area of brios and choili, the guidance of the Chavis Havav. Much harder. The BM is harder. But if a person gets some clarity, then they can start seeing, that's the mistake I made. So let's go through, like as we mentioned, which mistake? These are the two mistakes. The more a person believes in Siba and Mesoiviv, the word Siba and Mesoiviv is used, that means that they believe that the reason why they weren't successful is because the person that gave them this number, how did he say Hafnaya?
Referral.
Yeah, the referral, he didn't get me. He doesn't have what I need. It's always like that. One way or another, that area. That's why I just wasted $1,500 on an evaluation. It makes no sense. It's a ton of money. And or again in every area. And once again, the doctors that didn't chap. As we speak, just yesterday or what, I was involved in a case of a young man, a person. I was very close. The doctors gave up. The doctors prepared how to be media for the family. I'm talking about as we speak. How to tell the family members that it's over, before, after, and yeah. And the Rebbeinu Shalom sent a shliach. You're talking about serious pain. Already up to that situation. They tried chemo, they tried the whole thing. It's not responding, and it went into the lungs, and it just regressed. V'kitze, over, it's over. And the Rebbeinu Shalom and the Zemuna and thanking the Rebbeinu Shalom for the matzav, and thanking the Rebbeinu Shalom for the matzav. And the person went to a different hospital, different continent, different x-rays, different pictures. Body's responding, the lungs are clean. It's nicht normal. It's unreal. I'm talking about mamash right now. And, when you hear the story at once, so it's like, okay. But when you, like, a few weeks in the stage one of the story, and then you don't believe your ears, it's be'emes, and they're trying to understand. One second. Is it the doctors that just have no idea what they're doing? Is it a real nest today's days? Pictures like that? What is going on? What's the story? There's still such stories going on. One of the main yisoidis is that it's not because it's the opposite way. Whatever's supposed to happen, everything around, it's not going to be the asking that knew about it. It's not. Whatever's supposed to happen, Hashem is going to create around it. So, emotionally, when a person has blame on themselves or on others, that's what's draining them. That's what's making it so hard. When a person knows they're going through a journey, that's very hard, and it's a high madrega, much higher than our madregas, that a person shouldn't have that heart pounding and that hope and that counting down to the results coming. That whole person should just like be okay. Like, or the person's gonna live. Well, they're gonna die. What's Mashana? We're not there, but we could definitely bring ourselves a little bit closer to not add fuel to the fire. That's very important, and we're doing that because we get dragged in.
Is that the danger of the Sefer Fuz, that they were gunners?
Sefer Refuos that they were going is was it made it to be like food.
Yeah.
There was nothing going on. There was no bit. You do this, it's done. It's over. So that's why the Chacham, the Chizkiah, hit it because he felt that's the right thing. Now, what's interesting is that if a person wants to work on it, they could see this. I realized I was observing a person that was not able to talk anymore, not able to nothing. Didn't know what's going on. But if you smiled, he smiles back instant. They see little babies, same zach, much before they could talk, verbalize anything, and even different forms of communication that's before talking. You smile, they smile back. So it's very, very, very deep, so deep in a person's instinct that you give you react to what comes across. That means you see a smile, you smile back. You react the way now. That's why when people talk and one party raises their tone, usually the other party will answer behetem with the same, and that's a big avoid. And K'mayim Ponim, it's just very, very powerful. But that takes people on roller coasters. That means when a person had such a good day and they don't know how did it happen to me? How could it be I got in car so quick? How could it be I lost my whole matzav ruach? Like one of the answers is that the person wasn't ready. That when someone talks to them a certain way, they shouldn't just fall right in. They reacted. I don't know. Behetem is a very strong. Accordingly, they reacted accordingly, and then they're just flowing along. A matzav that a person is going through, a situation that a person is going through, triggers your reactions. That means it's a avoida which a person must learn, because if not, we're living chayitzar. Now, if a person gets prepared, sometimes we could, like a minute at a time, we could do it if we're prepared. If you're prepared, if you get like the message someone's going to scream at you, he's not so normal. Just go right. Okay, that person comes and then you're just fine. So you're prepared. It's not like so you just bam, it doesn't hurt you if you got it. But if you weren't told and you're not prepared, you lose it. And even if you don't react, you're thinking about it 3 hours later. Matzavim in life are not saying the right story, are not saying the true story. The doctor said, the kid reacted, the principal. They're not really telling the true story. They're saying what they experience now. The child had a meltdown. It's true. It's messy, especially if it's an older child. But there's so much daiga. There's so much embarrassment. There's so much detail around. There's so many different repercussions of what's happening right now that we react accordingly. We lose it a little bit, even if we still put on a professional, with a necktie. But inside we're messed up. We're full of emotion. Now the person's on the roller coaster. Now, when we do ishtadlus, most of the times we're not in a good state of mind. Even if we're making phone calls to find out who helps us children. But we're not doing it chavis avovazdik. We're not like, beautiful, we just learned there's a mitzvah to find out. Let's find out. Let's do some kiruv today. We're like, this is a disaster. We have to help him. We have to change this matzav. Who would know? Once you're on that, even though you're doing something that's right, you're doing something that's so normal, but you're not in the right state of mind, it's not shaykh. So what happens is that if you went and you found, and you went and you paid and it didn't work, you're on that. The Chavis Avos is trying to save us.
Especially when the person told you, I know so many people he helped. Right? It was
Sure.
the same situation like here.
I know someone, he helped so many people. He's the guy. Now, we forget about Chavis Avovas there. Because, like, I'm not now Parnosa. I'm Atzolos Nefashos now. There's so many times that a person feels that there's nothing going on around and around. I'm like, fully involved. You can never be fully involved. Never. You always have to have one handle here and one handle here. Always. And it's a big avoider. It's a big avoider. But first, let's chap what happened to us. Let's understand why it got so complicated in us. And when a person starts calming down, they say, listen, it's not so complicated the way it looked like. It looked so messy. I got so emotionally involved because I got scared. How many times people say, sometimes people scream at their teenagers, you're never going to be able to get married like this. Now, why they say it? This is already the 20th time. 19 times they thought about it. When they were thinking about it, they weren't right. They weren't right. It's not always Galt Chavis Avos. That's called Daiga. That's called adding fuel to the fire in your mind. You're reacting the way it was presented to you, not the matzav itself. Be patient. And like this. The Rebbe has a plan. The Rebbe's plan is in the middle of unfolding. It's the middle of unfolding. So let's handle it. Let's sleep it over. It's very scary. Okay, it's be'emes scary. I didn't say it's not scary. It's not pleasant. The Rebbe doesn't expect us. Not in the beginning, we should feel it's pleasant. We have to work on it to be able to thank, but in the first darga, don't get carried away. Many times, the way a person could remind themselves not to get carried away, on their darga, without being the tzaddik ador, is like the Rishonim explained to us, look at the past. Look at your history. Look and see how many situations in life that look like there's a dead end, and there's no matziv, and you were worried the worst. It didn't end up turning out that way. It didn't. So again, the people that have a schwachkeit, they have a sensitivity to anxiety and to this worse, the one daga that's worse than anxiety. I forgot the word. The total shutdown. That means a person, then it's harder because they see right away the worst case scenario. And they're like living, they're experiencing right now the Levaya, and constantly. So that's a big avoid. Not everybody has the same target. Some people have this happy-go-lucky, but the happy-go-lucky chevra are not doing their shtadlas that they're supposed to. If a person is matzliach, then he could slowly inch up. So this is not the right one, so go to the other one. It doesn't have to be that we have to meet the right doctor so that the refuah shall come. It's all about reminding ourselves that while we're calling the doctors, we're doing the Seder V'Mishtadlis. And by refuah, the Seder V'Mishtadlis starts off with knowing that the Rebbeinu Shalom created it, that it shouldn't be like food. And slowly they start their journey. Have to be in certain places, have to work out different areas, and that's how they build it up. This is the beginning. It's be'emes a new sugya, this Brius and Choili. Hat der Eibishter helfen, jüdische Kinder sein gesund. Okay.
It's also the whole sugya of trying to prevent yourself